Vrinai Hai Tasrevyai Priyai Hai Kesavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Deve Satya Vachai Namahu Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani. Okay, cartels. So happy Ram Nomi, everybody.
Happy Ram Nomi today.
This is actually Ram Nomi. The week before Ram Nomi is not Ram Nomi. This is Ram Nomi. You understand? Okay, good to see everybody. Actually, today we can chant Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram.
Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram.
Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram.
Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram.
Radhikati Radhava Rajarago Bhavana Sita Ram.
Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram. Patita Pavana Sita Ram.
Raghupati Radhava Rajarago Patita Pavana Sita Ram.
Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram. Patita Pavana Sita Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Jai Ram, Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram.
Sita Ram, Jai Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Jai Sita Ram.
Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidacharya Also Teta Sitashi Shibad His Divine Grace Savaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Gajai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gajai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam Kijai Maturadam Kijai Jagadasami Kijai Munamai Kijai Shivadi Lasti Devi Kijai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Kijai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru Gauranga Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Nami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarni. So first we're going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to read from the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th chapter, texts 6 to 7, but we're just going to go do text 6 responsively, and then we're going to go on, and I will read 7. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Yo Loka Vira Samatao Danur Ashang Ukrang Sita Swayamvara Grihe Trishotapani Tam Adaya Vala Gaja Lila Ivekshu Yastin Saji Kritang Ripa Vik Krishna Abhavanja Maje Yo Lokavira Sameto Dhanuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Ripavik Krisha Vanjamaje
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Yo Lokavira Samito Dhanuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Ripavik Krisha Vavanjamaje
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Yo Lokavira Sametau Dhanuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Anaya Balaka Jalila Hivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Ripavik Krisha Bhavanjamaje
Saji Kritam
Sharivanjamaje. Okay.
Yo Lokavira Samitau Danuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Swayamvara Grihe Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Ripavigriksha Babhanjamadye
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Yo Lokavira Samito Dhanuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Sayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Yo Lokavira Samitau Dhanuraisha Mugram
Yo Lokavira Samito Danuraisha Mugram
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Sita Swayamvaragrike Trishatopanitam
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Adaya Bala Gajalila Ivekshuyastim
Saji Kritam Nipavrikshavanjamaje
Sajjikritam nipavidisya panjamadye.
ये लोकवीर समितौ धनुरैषम् उग्रम्
यो लोकवीरसमितौ धनुरैषमुग्रम्
सीता स्वयंवरगृहे त्रिशातोपनीतम्
सीता स्वयंवरगृहे त्रिशतोपनीतम्
आदाय बालगजलीला इवेक्षुयस्तिम्
आदाय बालगजलील इवेक्षुयस्तिम्
सज्जीकृतं नृप विकृष्य भवञ्ज मध्ये
सज्जीकृतं नृपविश्यभवञ्जमध्ये
यो लोकवीरसमितो धनु ऐषाम उग्रम्
यो लोकवीरसमितौ धनुरैषमुग्रम्
सीता स्वयंवरा गृहे त्रिशतोपनीतम्
सीता स्वयंवरगृहे त्रिशतोपनीतम्
आधाय बालगजलीला इवेक्षुयस्तिम्
आदाय बालगजलील इवेक्षुयस्तिम्
सज्जैकृतं नृपवृक्षया बभञ्ज मध्ये
सज्जीकृतं नृपविश्यभवञ्जमध्ये
Okay, now I'll just read the next text. Jivanurupa gunashila vayonga rupam Sita bedam sriyamuras yabila padmadam Marge vrajan brugupater vyajanat prajrudam Darpam mahim kritayas trir arajabijam. Okay, we got a lot of word by word synonyms here. Ya. Lord Ramachandra who?
Lord Ramachandra who?
Lokavira Samitao.
Lokavira Samitau.
In the society or in the midst of many heroes of this world.
In the society of many heroes of the world.
Danu.
Danu.
The bow.
The bow.
Aisham.
Aisham.
Of Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva.
Ugram.
Ugram.
Very fierce.
Very fierce.
Sita Swayamvaragrake.
Sita Swayamvaragrake.
In the hall where Mother Sita
In the hall where Mother Sita
stood to select her husband.
stood to select her husband.
Atrishata Upadhitam.
Vishatapanitam.
The bow carried by 300 men.
The bow carried by 300 men.
Adhaiha.
Adaya.
Taking that bow.
Taking that bow.
Malagajalila.
Balagajalila.
Acting like a baby elephant
Acting like a baby elephant.
in the forest of sugar
In
cane.
the forest of sugarcane.
Iva.
Iva.
Like that.
Like that.
Ikshu Yashtim.
Ikshuyastim.
A stick of sugar cane.
A stick of sugarcane.
Yajikritam.
Sajjikritam.
Fasten the string of the bow.
Fasten the string of the bow.
Ripa.
Ripa.
O king.
O king.
Vikrisha.
Krishna.
By bending.
By bending.
Babanja.
Banja.
Broke it.
Broke it.
Madhe.
Madhe.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Jitva.
Jitva.
Gaining by victory.
Gaining by victory.
Anurupa.
Anurupa.
Just befitting his position and beauty. Guna.
Guna.
Qualities.
Qualities.
Shila.
Shila.
Behavior.
Behavior.
Vaya.
Vaya.
Age.
Age.
Anga.
Anga.
Body.
Body.
Rupa.
Rupa.
Beauty.
Beauty.
Sita Abhidang.
Sita Abhidam.
The girl named Sita.
The girl named Sita.
Shihang.
Priyam.
The goddess of fortune.
The goddess of fortune.
Udasi.
Udasi.
On the chest.
On the chest.
Abila. Abhilabdhavanam. Having gotten her previously.
Had gotten her previously.
Marge.
Marge.
On the way.
On the way.
Rajan.
Rajan.
While walking.
While walking.
Brigupate.
Gurupate.
of Bhrigupati,
of Bhigupati,
of Vyanayat,
Vinaya,
destroyed.
destroyed.
Prarudam,
Narudam,
rooted very deep.
rooted very deep.
Darpam,
Dharmam,
pride.
pride.
Mahim,
Mahim,
the earth. Akrita,
Akrita,
finished.
finished.
Ya,
Ya,
one who.
one who.
Tree,
Three,
3 times 7.
3 times 7.
Oh, actually, 7, yeah. So, Araja,
Raja,
without a royal dynasty.
without a royal dynasty.
Bijam,
Bijam,
seed.
seed.
Okay, the translation. O king, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra were wonderful like those of a baby elephant. That's because he broke the sugar cane. The baby elephant breaks the sugar cane the same way that Lord Ramachandra broke the bow. In the assembly where Mother Sita was to choose her husband in the midst of the heroes of the world, this world, he broke the bow belonging to Lord Shiva. This bow was so heavy that it was carried by 300 men. But Lord Ramachandra bent and strung it and broke it in the middle, just as a baby elephant breaks a stick of sugar cane. Thus the Lord achieved the hand of Mother Sita, who was equally as endowed with transcendental qualities of form, beauty, behavior, age, and nature. Indeed, she was the goddess of fortune who constantly rests on the chest of the Lord. While returning from Sita's home after gaining her in the assembly of competitors, Lord Ramachandra met Parashuram. Although Parashuram was very proud, having rid the earth of the royal order 21 times, he was defeated by the Lord, who appeared to be a Kshatriya of the royal order. So there's no commentary here, and we pretty much talked about these pastimes before. So what I wanted to do today is mention or talk about some of the stories that are not generally talked about in the Ramayana. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Un Militam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So, some of these stories are from the Valmiki Ramayana, and I'm going to tell the Mahiravana Ahiravana story, which is not in the Valmiki Ramayana, but Prabhupada told it. So it's generally in the South Indian versions of the Ramayana. But Prabhupada told it, and Prabhupada, anyway, whatever. So it's bonus, even though it's not in the Valmiki Ramayana. So, there's an interesting encounter between Sita and Ram when they're in the forest. Because Sita is very compassionate to all the living entities. And she's very much afraid that Ram is going to get carried away with his bow. So it's interesting too, because generally you depict Sita as really not saying anything, but sometimes she talks back to Ram and gives him instructions, not in a harsh way. You know, I know nowadays the husbands say to his wife, "You should be like Sita, ready to follow me anywhere and agree with anything I do." But then the wife should say, "Then you should be like Lord Ramchandra. Instead, you are like Ravan." So anyway, right? So anyway, so here's the story. That Sita was giving an instruction to Ram and said, "Put down your bow. You're carrying it, and it's going to tempt you to kill innocent creatures." And actually, they also, anyway, when they were in the forest, they actually shot deer too. The Kshatriya was allowed to shoot deer. In one particular juncture, the sages had to ask Ram and Lakshman and Sita to go somewhere else because there were no more deer there at that particular place. So anyway, but that was Kshatriya's dharma. So in any case, Sita said, "Look, I'm going to give you instructions now." And Ram sort of objects to the whole thing. But Sita says, "Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a Brahmin who was performing austerities. And you know, Indra really gets upset when the Brahmins are performing austerities because he thinks the Brahmins want to take over his kingdom. Or if another king does 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices, then he interferes, like he did in the case of Prithu Maharaj. He came down and kept stealing the horses, and Prithu Maharaj's son, starts with a V, Vijayashava, something like that, he started to chase Indra, and Indra manifested himself as sannyasi. And this way Indra produced a lot of bogus sannyasis, which we have in Kali Yuga right now. So Indra got very upset with this Brahmin who was performing great austerities. So this particular Brahmin, he couldn't send down apsaras for. So he had a different methodology. He gave the Brahmin a bow. And the Brahmin was carrying around the bow. And one thing led to another. When you're carrying around a bow, you use it. Just like when we were young. Hare Krishna. Okay. Please turn off your mobile phones or put them on mute or airplane mode. So whatever the case is be. So the Brahmin had this bow, and he was carrying the bow, and he became very cruel, and he started. Everybody's reaching for their phones. Oh, out of a Sangani to see you. Missed you. So he started to shoot innocent creatures, and therefore he fell down. But Ram countered, saying, actually, I was asked by the sages to protect them. It's my duty. So I have to carry a bow. And Sita said, all right, I agree. But just be careful. Don't kill any innocent Rakshasas. So, you know, it's described in the Valmiki Ramayana and also in the Mahabharata. That's a lady's nature, to be very soft-hearted. Like you have the case of Ashvatam. That Ashvatam killed Draupadi's 5 sons. Can you imagine how you ladies would feel if someone killed all your sons? Woo. But she was so sentimental, soft-hearted, let's say soft-hearted, that when Arjuna brought Ashwatam back, and Arjuna was ready to kill him, and Bhimsen was certainly ready to kill him, she said, no, he's the son of a Brahmin, his mother is still alive, so please let him live. And of course, we understand, of course, Krishna said, all right, you got to follow Bhimsen's instructions, and you got to follow Draupadi's instructions. And Arjuna had sort of a dilemma there. So he decided to cut off the jewel from Ashwatam. And of course, that was probably a mistake to let Ashwatam go. Even though Krishna said to do it. But because Ashwatam later on fired the Brahmastra at Uttara to kill Parikshit, the last remaining descendant of the Pandavas. So anyway, so you see that she was very soft-hearted, and Sita was very soft-hearted too. So there's another very interesting story as they were traveling and visiting the different ashrams of the sages. Many different sages they visited. One was Tiksha, and then he goes to Tiksha. We're not going to tell the story, Tiksha. But Tiksha told him where Agastya Muni was. And Agastya Muni is actually a very important personality in the Ramayana, because the Agastya Muni actually gives Ram different powers and things like that, and actually protects Ram. You remember at the end of the battle, or toward the end, he gives him this the sun mantra, right? Hridiya, what is it? Mantra, Hridiya, something like that, with the sun, the potency of the sun, so Ram can actually kill Ravan. So Agastya Muni, this is a side story in the Ramayana, this is told in the Valmiki Ramayana. He's famous because he swallowed the ocean. Now that may appear to be incredible, How could someone swallow the ocean? But he had pretty good digestion. The reason he swallowed the ocean was that the demons. Oh. If we were in the temple and that happened, I would say that if anyone's phone goes off, they're giving $1,000 to the deities. You've heard me say that before, right? But since we're not in the temple, you're let off scot-free. So anyway, so Agastya Muni swallowed the ocean because the demons were hiding in the ocean, and they were hiding from the demigods, and the demigods, especially Agni, could not go into the ocean. And so Agni would... Oh, you turned off your phone.
That's all right.
Okay. And so, but there's another famous story about Agastya Muni that's told in the Ramayana. I thought there's such an entertaining story that you should hear it. So, there were actually two brothers who were demon brothers who would entertain Brahmins all the time. So they were called Iuvala and Vitapa. Vitapi. And the way they would entertain the Brahmanas is they would offer to feed them. And I guess at that time some of the Brahmanas ate meat. So anyway. So Vitapi was good at changing his form into any form. And Iuvala knew the supernatural mantra to bring back a dead person to life, which is called Sanjivani, which is also used in the Ramayana. So they thought, we're going to... the way they killed the Brahmanas, let me go back a little bit, was that they... Vatapi would actually change his form into that of a goat or a lamb. And Iuvala would actually feed his brother to the sage. But then he would bring his brother back to life, and he would split the guts of the sage, and it would come out from the sage's stomach and kill the sage. So this way they used to kill sages. Nice people. Isn't that Valmiki Ramayana? So, so they wanted to kill Agastya Muni in the same way. And so what they did is they called for Agastya Muni, and they did this whole procedure. And they fed Vatapi to, was a lamb or a goat or something like that, to Agastya Muni. But Agastya Muni, remember, he had pretty good digestion. So what he did is he actually chanted, after he ate this, he rubbed his stomach and he said this mantra, Vatapijir no bhava. That will, Vatapi will not live. And he burped. And he digested it. So Iuvala tried to bring his brother back to life, and it didn't work. And that was the end of Vatapi and Iuvala. So, interesting story from the Ramayana. It's in the Ramayana, so I'm telling you. Another story about Agastya Muni is that once upon a time, there's the Vindhya Hills in India. And they kept growing bigger and bigger. So in other words, to temper the vanity of these mountains, Agastya and his family decided to go to South India, passing over the Vindhya Hills. And the Vindhya Hills bowed in respect. I mean, it's hard to imagine hills bowing in respect, but things happen. Actually, there's living entities everywhere. So the Vindhya Hills bowed in respect to Agastya Muni, and Agastya Muni said, please stay bowing until I return. As a description, he never returned. So Agastya Muni, here, in his ashram, he gave quivers and weapons to Lord Ram, gave Lord Ram the bow of Vishnu, and of course the quiver was from Indra, and the sword and arrows were from Brahma. So he's a very important person. And so Agastya told Ram to go to Panchavati by the banks of the Godavari. Okay, so that's Agastya's part. Very, very important person in the Ramayana. So then there's another story, which you probably heard before, but I like this story too. Once upon a time, there was a son of Indra. And Indra's son had an improper attitude towards Sita Devi. You probably heard this before. So therefore, he thought, I want to touch her on her breasts. And so he took the form of a crow. Kakasura was his name at that particular point. And so he flew, and this crow came and pecked on her breast. And she was bleeding. And when Ram saw that, he picked up a piece of grass and powered it with the Brahmastra weapon. And the Brahmastra was chasing the crow over everywhere. Here, there, everywhere. And finally, the crow surrendered to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram said the Brahmastra has to work, so he took out the crow's eye. And so Indra's son doesn't have an eye. So, actually, Lord Ram is always protecting Sita Devi. Okay, here's another story that indicates it's all right to get drunk. Oh my God. So, of course, we know that the monkeys and the bears, and particularly Hanuman and Sugriva, they didn't fly, but they went to all the way south in India, trying to look for Sita. Eventually, we know Hanuman crossed the ocean and came back with the news that Sita was there. And so when they heard that, they were very joyful. So they headed back. They actually flew back, flying monkeys. They flew back. They flew back to Kishkinda to tell Ram and Sugriva the news. Now, on the way back, they decided to celebrate. There was this place called Madhuvan. Madhu, like sweet honey. And so they all got drunk. And this was Sugriva's private forest, private garden.
Right.
And so there was a guard in the garden. His name was Dadimukha. And Dadimukha got beat up. The monkeys were so intoxicated, celebrating that they had found Sita. So it's all right. You can celebrate in that way today. Honey, by drinking a lot of honey. Varuni, like we do on Balaram's appearance day, isn't it? Sometimes we drink. When I was young, we would have a honey drinking contest. All the brahmacharis would just drink as much honey and see who could drink the most.
Honey.
What?
Honey.
Honey.
Not mixed with water?
No, pure honey.
Wow.
And then I won the contest. No, there's more to the story. I won the contest because we were outside on a picnic bench. I poured some of the honey out of the glass. They weren't looking, so that's more to the story. So cheating is all right. And also when people drink a lot of honey, they tend to urinate more. So they did that on poor Dadimukha. You heard the story before? Any of you? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told the story before. So anyway, so Sugriva, they thought Sugriva was going to be really angry because Dadimukha complained to him, and Sugriva was so happy because they found Sita Devi. And then Hanuman shows Ram the ring and tells Ram the story, and actually verifies. See, we just told the story of Kakasura, right? So only Sita Ram knew that story. So Sita told Hanuman that story, so Ram could be sure that he had found Sita Devi.
Right.
Just like Hanuman brought the ring
Yes.
Right.
of Ram, right?
Ram.
So in the same way, there was the story of Kakasura. So Kakasura's story is really important in that regard. Then, actually, there's one of my favorite stories, the story of Ahiravana or Mahiravana, which you've heard before, but there's more details that I encountered. Actually, particularly in South India, they talk about this story more than in North India. It's in most of the South Indian Ramayans. Anyway, so here's the story. So in some of the versions it says Mahiravana or Ahiravana was Ravana's brother. In others it says he was the nephew. So somehow or other there's some difference of opinion there. So what happened is that while the monkey army and Ram had arrived in Lanka, so Hanuman wanted to protect them. And so he thought the best way to protect them was with his extendable tail. You know, his tail could really just like wind around. So interesting. You know, sometimes the Angada, for example, went to see Ravan to try to make peace, and Ravana would not offer him a seat. So he made his seat with the tail,
Yeah.
just extended it, and he was higher than Ravan. Anyway, and you find Hanuman uses his tail quite a bit. So anyway, so the story is Hanuman made sort of like a fort where Ram and Lakshman where he was protecting Ram and Lakshman, and they were resting for that night. Of course, Lakshman never rested. But in any case, they were inside. And so Mahiravana wanted to kidnap them. However, he didn't go himself in the beginning. He sent a servant because, you know, he didn't need to do everything. He was very powerful. He had this benediction: he couldn't be killed unless three things happened simultaneously. He kept his life in a diamond. Also, there was another half. This is an interesting story. You may not know this whole story. There were 5 flames in the Himalayas that had to be extinguished simultaneously to kill him. And then also you had to strike him in the chest. So that was a big problem. So Ahiravana Mahiravana sent his servant to try to kidnap Ram and Lakshman. So his servant, this is actually quite interesting. His servant went to this tail fort, and he wanted to enter the tail fort. So he sort of opened up some of the coils in the tail fort, and there was also monkeys inside protecting. So they cut off the servant's nose and everything. And the servant goes back, and Ahiravana Mahiravana says, "Time for me to go. You know, my servant's not able to do this." So, Ahiravana Mahiravana. I'll just say Mahiravana because it's just 2 different names. So he took the form of Vibhishan. And then he says to Hanuman, you know, I need to go inside just to check to sure everything is all right. So he goes inside and he kidnaps Ram and Lakshman and takes them to this place called Mahipuri, which Prabhupada said, and the reason I'm telling this story, even though it's not in the Valmiki Ramayana, because Prabhupada told the story, that Prabhupada said this was in Brazil. Just like when the Spaniards came to South America, they discovered a lot of gold. That's why the Spaniards and the Portuguese, actually Brazil was the Portuguese more than the Spaniards, and they robbed all that gold and took it to Spain. And of course the English, they took the jewelry from the deities, the crown jewels of England, Hope Diamond, everything was taken from India. India previously was the richest country in the world.
Yes.
You know, spices, people go to India for spices, for gold, and now it's been robbed by the British. That's Prabhupada really had this thing against the British, although he liked his British disciples. So anyway, they went to Brazil, Mahipuri, and Hanuman, because there was a tunnel between Brazil and Lanka. And to this day, actually Prabhupada actually pointed to the map on a globe, and he said there's a tunnel here, and they have tunnels in Brazil they haven't been able to go fully into. Yeah, I don't know about Lanka, but at least in Brazil there's been tunnels. And so anyway, there was a tunnel, and so Hanuman, they discovered ultimately that wasn't Vibhishan, because the real Vibhishan came and said, I'd like to see what's happening. He said, well, you're already in there, Prabhu. And so they said, we got trouble. And then they went in there, and there was no Ram and Lakshman. So Hanuman called for Hanuman. So Hanuman said, I'm going to find Ram and Lakshman and save them. So he came to the entrance to this tunnel, because he saw that they had gone through the tunnel. And he thought, how am I going to go through it? And then he remembered he was the son of the wind god. So then he went through this tunnel. It was like a pneumatic tube. You know what a pneumatic tube is?
Compressed air kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes. In America we have them at banks, where you go into a drive-up window. Do you have that here too? No. No drive-up windows. Americans are more lazy. They just drive up to the bank, and they put their money in a tube that goes, and it goes, and it works. So anyway, there was a pneumatic tube, so Hanuman goes there, and he wants to enter into where Ram and Lakshman are, but there's so many guards at the door. And some of the stories that I've read say that they had sort of like a device that would detect whether someone was inimical to Mahiravana. So Hanuman didn't realize that. But he thought he would enter in disguise. Actually, it's very little, in a very little form. So he made himself really, really tiny. And there was some water being brought to Mahiravana. And so he put himself on the leaf in the water. Probably wasn't a Tulsi leaf, but anyway. On the leaf, and he was just floating down there. And this device, like a meter, started to register. The alarms went off and everything like that. And he had sort of like a little fight with Mahiravana, but he escaped. And anyway, the fight broke up at that particular point. And Mahiravana was at the same time performing a sacrifice, some sort of fire sacrifice, and Hanuman decided to ruin the sacrifice by passing urine on it. He had this habit. He did the same thing with Indrajit's sacrifice too. So anyway, so still Mahiravana was getting ready to offer Ram and Lakshman to Kali at midnight. So Hanuman, he went to Ram and Lakshman, who were making believe that they were actually held captive. And they wanted to kill Mahiravana. So Hanuman explained the whole procedure for killing Mahiravana. He said, I'm going to fly to the Himalayas. You may not be familiar with this portion of the story. And put out all these lamps. Same time, simultaneously, synchronize your watches. Lord Ram should hit by Ravan in the chest, and simultaneously Lakshman should destroy this diamond. So Hanuman flies to the Himalayas, but there is a disc that's protecting these 5 lamps. And the disc is like a razor-sharp disc that's revolving. And so Hanuman is thinking, what should I do? So that makes himself really, really small again, and slips out and destroys the disc. And there's also some snakes and things like that. Somehow or other he kills them, and he gets himself ready, so everything is synchronized. He blows it using his wind god potency. He gets rid of the lamps. Ram hits Ravana in the chest, and Lakshmana destroys the diamond. And Vayu helps them, and then Hanuman carries them to Lanka. That's a nice story, isn't it? Anyway, so many nice stories. So there's another story that actually is one of my favorite. That's in the it's in the Puranas and also in the Ramayana. We all know that Ravan could never actually touch Sita Devi, because had he touched Sita Devi, he would have died, or even attempted to, he would have died immediately. So, in the Kurma Purana, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found in South India, and the reason Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was looking for this Kurma Purana is that he encountered a Brahmana devotee of Lord Ram in South India, and this Brahmana would actually fast. Actually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to his house for prasadam. The Brahmana invited Lord Chaitanya for prasadam one day, and Lord Chaitanya got there, and he said, "Where's the prasad?" And the Brahmana said, "Sita's been kidnapped by Ravan." And so he was like depressed. So Lord Ramchandra, eventually the Brahmin cooked. And so Lord Ramchandra decided, I'm going to help this Brahmana. Because all day long, the poor Brahmana was depressed. His whole life was depression. How could Sita Devi be kidnapped by Ravan? So what he did, went further south, went to the where he found the Kurma Purana, made a copy of the Kurma Purana by hand, or had someone copy it by hand, and brought it back to the Brahmana. Brahmana was relieved. And that Kurma Purana, it gives the story, it's called the story of the chaste woman. Because Sita was not actually kidnapped by Ravan. And this whole thing was planned out by Lord Ram before. He told Sita Devi, look, this is what we're supposed to do.
That's the plan.
You know, so actually sometimes in the Ramayana, he forgets that he's God.
Yeah.
He plays the part really well. Other times he actually remembers what his mission is. And, you know, this is what you're supposed to do, you know. So what you're supposed to do, because we don't want you to be kidnapped, that's not possible anyway. Well, you're supposed to be taken care of by Agni Dev, the fire god. So Agni, he turns her over to Agni Dev. Now, in the movie it's not accurate because it actually shows Agni Dev touching her, you know. Even no one could touch Sita. Only Ram. So that's not appropriate. But anyway, she goes to where Agni Dev is. And in the meantime, she has this illusory form that she produces, which is called Maya Sita, you know, reflection of her. And her reflection is actually a person too. It's not just like an illusion, you know, just like something on the TV screen or something like that. It's actually a separate person. Just like we find that Srimati Radharani expands as the gopis, Lalita Vishaka and the other gopis. And then there's the expansion of the wives of Krishna and Dwarka. And then there's the Lakshmis. And, you know, and part of that expansion is Sita. Sita is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Interesting. And so what happens is that this expansion of Sita, Maya Sita, is there, and she's in the forest the whole time. This shows the value of chanting Ram's name too. She's eventually kidnapped, and she's in the Ashok Grove, and she's chanting Ram, 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 and she was the one who actually took the blade of grass and put it before her, and Ram couldn't go near her. I mean, Ravan couldn't go. Ravan couldn't go near her. Sorry about that. And so, also Ravana had been cursed by Nalakuvara. Remember Manigriva Nalakuvara? Because Nalakuvara was married to Ramba, and Ravan, sometime in the past, had kidnapped her and actually forced himself upon her. And Nalakuvara was so upset, he cursed Ravan that you'll die the next time you force a lady. So Ravan knew that. And also there's the blade of grass. I mean, anyway, so many stories in the Ramayana. So the whole time she was in the Ashok Grove, she was chanting Ram's name and attached to Ram. And so she developed love of Lord Ramchandra. So fast forward, the real Sita comes back, but she actually wants to marry Ram too. Ram had that problem that many times people would fall in love with him.
Right.
Surpanaka fell in love. So many stories of falling in love. And even the sages in Dandakaranya, of course, they didn't fall in love with their material bodies or physical bodies.
Yeah.
They understood what their siddha dehas were, their eternal spiritual bodies. So they said, we want to marry, and Ram had to give the same answer every time. Ekapatni vrata, ekapatni vrata, ekapatni vrata. And actually, another lesson we learned from the Ramayana is that it's better to have one wife. Because Dasarath teaches us this lesson, with Kaikeyi. And actually, there's a play on words. Sapatni, so it could mean with wives, or it can also mean sapatnya, actually. It could also mean with one's enemy. So if one has too many wives, and you see so many stories, Suniti, Suruchi, right? They definitely didn't like each other. They were competitors. So this is a common thing. So we believe one wife you get in this life. And that's it. You either have a choice, one wife or no wife. So anyway, so getting back to the story. So what happens is that she falls in love with Rama, and of course Ram always says, Ekapatni vrata. Ram had one wife, one arrow, and one word. He always kept his word, no matter what. So she laments, performs sacrifice, and everything like that, just like even Kubja did. And Kubja got a chance to associate with Krishna later on. But in this particular case, this Baya Sita, she got a chance to associate with Lord Vishnu later on. And the way she got a chance to associate with Lord Vishnu later on was that once upon a time, I'll try to tell the story quickly. Once upon a time, Lord Vishnu was with Lakshmi. And when he was with Lakshmi was there, Sheshanag was there. Who comes but Brigamuni? And he kicks Lord Vishnu in the chest. And Lord Vishnu is apologetic. Please accept my obeisances. I'm sorry my chest was so hard. Let me massage your lotus feet. And this proves that he's in the mode of transcendental goodness. Whereas the demigods, that's another proof that Vishnu is supreme. Whereas the demigods, like Shiva, gets really angry. Brahma gets a little angry. So, therefore, Lakshmi is there at the same time, and she gets really upset. Yeah, you do that to someone's husband. Shoo. The husband can forgive, but the wife won't forgive. There's even that story that Prabhupada tells that if you have cobras and you kill one cobra, You know,
Yeah.
the wife or husband will actually come and
Yeah.
take a picture with their eyes of you. And
Yeah.
there's even one story that someone thought he'd go back to America or something like that, and the cobra followed him in the airplane. Interesting story. So anyway, so she's angry. Lakshmi's angry, and she said, "I can't stand it anymore. You're too tolerant." And she just go. I'm just, I need a vacation from this. So she leaves Narayan, and Narayan is without Lakshmi. Of course, we understand Lakshmi Sataha Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, that there's many Lakshmis. Really, Narayan could have said, "Okay, we got some more Lakshmis here. Call for Lakshmi 2. Back up. But she's the main Lakshmi from where the other Lakshmis expand. She goes away, and he becomes bereft. He doesn't have any money. Lakshmi. Another thing about the story of the Ramayana is that if you try to have Lakshmi without Narayan, you get Maya Lakshmi or Durga. You actually get Durga in this particular case. So, anyway, he comes down to the Earth planet. He's wandering around the Earth planet, and he's looking for Lakshmi. In the meantime, he meets this other nice girl. And she's from a very wealthy family. And so it doesn't really work, have someone who's poor marry a girl who's from a wealthy family. So he has to, instead of getting his money from Lakshmi, he has to go to Kuvera to borrow money. And then he has to get a house, so he goes to Lord Baraha to get some land. Did you know this?
Yeah.
I told the story before. And so, he does all this. Then there's a Vivaha Yoga. He gets married. And they go on their honeymoon. You have honeymoons in India?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you have a honeymoon? No.
We came to India
Oh, you came to India.
with you.
Oh, that was your honeymoon. Just see how romantic he is, Honeymoon, yeah. I had a couple in Australia who went on their honeymoon with me. We were all seated in the plane flying back to America. They wanted to visit America with me.
Oh.
And I said to the stewardess, this is a newly married couple, and I'm chaperoning them on their The stewardess almost had a heart attack of that. So getting back to the story, it's a true story. They're a very nice couple, actually. And Western couple, anyway, very nice in Australia. So what happened is that, all right, going on their honeymoon, and the real Lakshmi comes and says, "What are you doing?" It's my husband. And Lord Narayan, he just thinks, this is trouble. Two ladies arguing, it's always trouble. And so he decides to leave the place by turning himself into a deity. And they're arguing. They turn around, they see their husband as a deity. And they decide, well, we got to join him. Shri and Boo. Shri, Lakshmi, Boo Devi. So the Maya Sita eventually marries the Lord. Because it's not appropriate to marry Lord Ramchandra. If you have or are situated in the conjugal ras, you cannot relate to Lord Ramchandra in an intimate way. You either have Krishna in Vrindavan, or Krishna in Dwarka, like that. And you can't become a Lakshmi either. So, anyway, so that's the time. So any questions? Today, in the class at noon or whenever we have the class, we're going to be speaking about separation and how the story of Ramayana has so many instances of pain in it. And what is the purpose of that pain? You know, sometimes we take it as a tragedy, but it's not. It's not a tragedy. I mean, there's many cases like the ladies, they hear the Ramayana, they start crying. Of course, they also cried during Sita Swayamvara too. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they cry when there's a tragedy, when things are good. But, you know, there's a lot of apparently tragic elements in the Ramayana, which are not actually tragic, and we're going to describe that today. So,
Look forward to.
should be interesting. So, any questions or comments? Yes.
The golden statue of Sita, was she a personality as well?
Not that I know of. No, it's like a deity. The deity, Sita was present in the deity. Just like we have the deities of Krishna and Radharani. It's not that they're persons in the sense that Krishna manifests as the deity, but not as a separate person. Yeah, the golden statue was manufactured because Ram had to perform these different sacrifices. And according to Vedic tradition, when someone performs a sacrifice, you got to have your wife sitting there at the same time. I don't know if they do that in ISKCON so much, but I've seen it sometimes, but not commonly. But if you're a male Brahmin, your wife has to be right there, next to you, when you're doing the sacrifice. Otherwise, it's not bona fide. Vedically.
Yeah.
Now, according to Vaishnava standards, I'm not sure, but I remember when I first joined the movement, I saw our temple president, and he would have his wife right there, right next to him, performing the sacrifice. Otherwise, it wasn't bona fide. So the king always had to, especially the Rajasuya sacrifice.
Right.
There's different. There's the Ashwamedha sacrifice, which basically is this horse sacrifice. But the Rajasuya is actually much more important. Because the Rajasuya, which you also employ the horse in that particular case. But the Rajasuya can only be done one time by anyone, even by one person who's on the planet. Because it establishes that king as the emperor. You understand? It's not, Ashwamedha can be done by any of the kings. Or you could do 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices like Prithaparsh was trying to do. But Rajasuya means that you're the emperor. And of course the Pandavas did the Rajasuya while they were in Indraprastha.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what made the Kurus so envious. And of course they had this palace constructed by Mayadanava, where water appeared to be like land, land appeared to be water, and the doorways, the crystal doorways were so transparent that Duryodhana tried to walk through a doorway, but he hit his head. And Duryodhana tried to walk on land, but he went into the water. And Draupadi was laughing at him the whole time. So that was another instance of the Rajasuya. And Lord Ram wanted to perform the Rajasuya, not just the Ashwamedha, and therefore he had to send this challenge horse out with this sign on it, that if anyone stops this horse, they're going to be defeated by our army. So the horse had to go unimpeded. And of course, the horse was only impeded by Lav and Kush, who were able to defeat Bharat, Shatrughna, and Lakshman,
Captured Hanuman.
and capture Hanuman.
Yeah.
And so Ram was getting ready to fight his own sons, and he was stopped by Valmiki Muni. So anyway, so that's called Rajasuya, the emperor's sacrifice. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
This is the story told in Tirupati Balaji. They said
That's a Tirupati Balaji story, yeah. Yeah, those deities are in Tirupati right now.
Mhm.
And Gurudev, they say that pastime took place in Kali Yuga. Is it true?
The pastime of Tirupati Balaji you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it would have to take place after Ram's pastimes. I'm not sure exactly when. That's not mentioned in the Purana. They may say that as Kali Yuga, and that's just what they say, but I don't know the exact timing of it. There's actually one person on the internet who always tries to find the timing of all these different pastimes. His name is Nilesh Oak. Anyone heard of him before? I mean, he's not a scholar or anything like that, but he has a YouTube channel. And he always says, well, the Ramayana occurred so many years ago. You know, he goes through a thorough analysis. But I'm not saying it's accurate. But in any case, yeah, Ram Sita today is the appearance of Lord Ram. So generally, they say the way you're supposed to celebrate is in the morning you talk about the birth of Lord Ram, midday Sita Swayambara, in the evening, the victory, going back to Ayodhya. Or defeating Ravan and going back to Ayodhya. So usually when you go through a traditional Ramayana recital, it's broken up into those three different segments. And you're all Ram Bhaktas. Sita Ram, Raghupati, Raghava, Raja Ram, Patita Pavana, Sita Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. All right. And those of you who wish to fast, you can fast today. If you're a little old and might have health challenges, you can take non-grain food in the morning. And some people fast all day long. I mean, Prabhupada's given both instructions, Once he said it's a half-day fast, another day he said it was till the evening. But Ram appeared in the middle of the day.
Yes.
It was the Sun Dynasty, Surya Dynasty. And Krishna appeared at midnight. I don't know why Krishna picked that time. I wish he picked like 8 o'clock in the morning. Kindness, But Ram is Patita Pavana, so he appeared. But Lord Chaitanya, even though he's Patita Pavana, he chose to sunset, moonrise. So who knows? He can do whatever he wants.
We need to talk to him.
All right, all glorious to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, a lot of people watch.
So we've got Ekadashi Prashadam for everyone. So please.
Yeah, no grains at least.
Sasto.
No grains.